Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a training plan for beginners so that you can build muscle and strength. If you're someone who's relatively new to lifting, or if you're a coach that works with mostly general population clients, or even with athletes that are relatively new to resistance training, then you probably don't want to follow an advanced bodybuilding routine. Instead, you want to focus on nailing the basics of a proper training plan, which I'll outline in this video. So without further ado, let's get started. So first you want to decide on how many days per week you're going to train. I'd advise beginners to train 2 to a maximum of 3 days per week, and beginners will often want to do more, thinking this will lead to faster progress. However, because your body isn't used to training at all, it'll be super sensitive to training stress, and you'll only need a very little stimulus to make pretty much the same gains. Also, doing too much will increase the risk of feeling burnt out, which can ultimately lead to the person stopping training altogether. If you've been consistent for 6 months or more, and you feel you have the time and the energy to add a couple of more sessions, then feel free and go ahead. But if you're not super advanced and lifting isn't your number one priority in life, and you aren't someone who only has very little time per workout, then it probably isn't necessary to go over more than 3 days per week. Now that you've decided on how many days per week you're going to train, we need to decide on the training split that you're going to do. For beginners, I would always advise doing full body training, which means that you'll be training all major muscle groups every time that you step into the gym. This will ensure that you're hitting each muscle group at least twice per week, and research has shown that frequencies of twice per week or even more are more effective at building size and strength than only doing once a week. And it'll also give you plenty of practice at improving your technique, which is super important for beginners that won't be very familiar with the movements that they're doing in the gym yet. Next, you want to choose the exercises that you're going to do. For beginners training 2 to 3 times a week, I'd advise you use mainly compound exercises, where you use multiple muscle groups at once, so stuff like presses, rows, deadlift variations, and squat variations. You could obviously also choose isolation exercises, but then you would run into the problem of having to spend large amounts of time in the gym. For instance, if you do a bench press, you train your chest, your shoulders, and your triceps, whereas if you would use isolation exercises, you would have to do a fly, a shoulder raise, and a tricep extension to get the same effect. Now, there aren't any specific exercises that you have to do when you get into the gym, but there are specific movement patterns that I think you should include in your training. So that would be a squat variation, where you're training your quads and your glutes. This doesn't have to be a barbell back squat, it could be a front squat, it could be a leg press, or even a Bulgarian split squat. Just something where you're doing simultaneous knee and hip extension. Then you would want to do some kind of hip hinge and hip extension exercise, where you're training your hamstrings, your glutes, and your lower back. That would be something like a deadlift, an RDL, or 45-degree back extension. And with those two movement patterns, you'll basically train your entire lower body. And then for your upper body, you want to do some kind of horizontal push and pull. So any bench press variation, whether that be a dumbbell bench press, a chest press, or a flat barbell bench press, and some kind of rowing variation. Again, it could be a machine row, it could be a bent over barbell row, or some kind of dumbbell row. And then you want to do a vertical push, so a shoulder press or any variation of a shoulder press, and some kind of vertical pull, so a lat pull down or some kind of chin-up variation. And training these 6 movement patterns will basically ensure that you're hitting all the major muscle groups in your body, and you won't really have to do any isolation exercises, at least not at first. Now you can choose free weights or machines, or a combination of both. Maybe at first pick up a bit more machines as they're a little bit easier to learn, and focus on 1 or 2 free weight exercises. And once you're able to do them correctly, then you could also add more free weights if you wanted to. And then just make sure that you're not cheating on the exercise, that you're using a full range of motion, that you're controlling the descent, and you can do the exercise safely. And then it doesn't really matter which specific exercise you choose. Next, you want to choose the sets and reps that you're going to do per exercise. A good start would be to do 3 sets per exercise if you're training twice per week. And then if you're training 3 days a week, I would do 2 sets per exercise. Now this might seem a bit low, but remember, this is for beginners and they'll make good progress on low volumes. And I think the focus at first should be on quality over quantity. And in terms of reps, I would do anywhere from 6 to 12 repetitions. You can definitely grow muscle outside of this rep range. And research has shown that doing sets of 5 and sets of 30 or more are basically both equally effective at growing strength and muscle mass. But because 6 to 12 repetitions is probably a good sweet spot of not doing so heavy weight or building up so much fatigue through high reps that your techniques breaks down. That's why I would mainly choose 6 to 12 repetitions. Now the sets should also feel challenging in that 6 to 12 rep range, which basically means you're not going to grow muscle or build strength if you're using 1 kilo dumbbells on your dumbbell bench presses. And you don't have to overcomplicate this at first. Basically, if the reps are slowing down towards the end of a set and you feel like you wouldn't have been able to do many more repetitions, then the weight is probably fine at first, and then over the next couple of weeks you'll try to add weight to the bar, and then basically you'll be in the correct range anyway. Lastly, we should also talk about the rest periods that you need to take between sets. And the basic answer here is rest as long as you need to until you feel you're ready to perform at your best the next set. Now, if you find it's hard to gauge how long that should be and you feel your performance declining on subsequent sets, then I'd say setting a timer at about 2 minutes between sets is probably a good start. So one bonus tip, but I think something that's super important but often overlooked, is that you want to log your lifts. You could do that with your phone, or if you're old school like me, then you could use a physical logbook like this. And basically every time you step into the gym, you want to write down what weight you did and how many reps you did per exercise, so that you're not just guessing what weight to use the next time that you step into the gym. So just to summarize everything, you want to make sure that you're training 2 to 3 times a week, doing full body sessions, including the 6 main movement patterns that I described earlier in this video. You want to do 2 to 3 sets per exercise of 6 to 12 repetitions that are challenging. You want to rest about 2 minutes per exercise and then log all your workouts. In my next video, I'm going to show you how to progress from week to week to make sure that your training stays effective. And if you're someone who only has limited time to work out during the week, then be sure to check out my video on that topic, where I go over a couple of strategies to reduce the amount of time that you have to spend in the gym. So that's it for this one. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.